Hiking Stitcher. Welcome to my end of year WIP parade. So, because I know that this is a way that people find other people on FlossTube, let me start out by telling you a little bit about myself and my cross-stitch journey. I live in Central Virginia, North Central Virginia. I'm about halfway between Charlottesville and Fredericksburg. I have been cross-stitching now since I was 11. So yeah, I've been cross-stitching now on again, off again for over 30 years. I picked it up seriously again about 15 years ago. Most of my favorite projects to stitch are full coverage, and I pretty much am a cross-stitcher. If it appeals to me, I'll stitch it. So, let's see what else. When I'm not cross-stitching, I'm hanging out with my wonderful husband, Jim, and our dog, Bo. Bo will not be making an appearance in this video because I am hiding in the basement because I knew this was going to take a while and I didn't really want any interruptions. But if you watch any of my previous FlossTube videos, chances are you've seen Bo walk around. He is a 12-year-old Weimaraner Lab mix and is just absolutely adorable. I am called the Hiking Stitcher because I do like to hike. I spend a lot of time up in Shenandoah National Park because it is fairly close to my home. And probably my biggest accomplishment in hiking was a year and a half ago. I finished hiking every single mile of trail in Shenandoah National Park. So over the course of about 3 years, I hiked 520 some odd miles. Actually more than that, but trying to think, what else do you want to know? I don't know. If there's anything else you want to know about me, just ask me a question in the comments and I will do my best to answer it. My favorite American football team is the New Orleans Saints. My favorite country that I have traveled to is England. And I don't know, I can't think of anything else. So let's begin, shall we? So in 2025, let me pull up my stats here. Sorry about that, having some camera issues and had to set some stuff up. So let me tell you about my 2025 stitching stats overall first. So in 2025, I started 32 projects, I finished 14, and I worked on a total of 77 projects for 236,622 stitches. That is the most I've ever done, which is amazing. My goal for this coming year is to try to hit that elusive 250,000 stitch mark. I stitched 355 days out of 365, and the days that I did not stitch were mostly due to either travel or some family emergencies that I had to deal with. But by and large, I tried to get at least one stitch in every single day. So the way that I am going to kind of split up my WIP parade this year is I'm doing it in order of my oldest to my newest non-full coverage WIPs. And then at the very end, I'll go through all of my full coverage WIPs because they have their own separate container with everything, and trying to get them filtered into my organization system by year is kind of crazy. So we're gonna go through so the first section is going to be anything that was started in 2023 or earlier. Most of my projects have been started since 2024, but I still have a handful that have been started since 2023, and those are all of my focus projects this year. They honestly should not see another WIP parade because they honestly should be done. So I'm just going to kind of go through and tell you a little bit about each of them. So the first one is one that I don't know why I stopped working on this, but this is Chew Toy Puppies. And this was a Dimensions kit that I picked up and started probably back in 2014, 2015. And I literally just have one small section to finish. And so that's why I'm like, I just need to finish it. So here is where I'm at. So this is where I'm at. I literally have all of the back stitching done. I just have to do what they call cording around the boots for the laces. And then that'll be done. So that honestly, sorry I didn't get pressed. So this honestly just needs to get finished up and out of my WIP pile. I have been working on this really for, I got the majority of this done before I moved to Virginia, and I've lived in Virginia now for 8 years. So that, if that tells you anything, why I'm avoiding doing cording, I don't know. I don't know if it's something I don't feel like I don't know how to do, or at the time I didn't know how to do it. So that is one goal for this year, is to get that finished up, because I said all I have to do is just lay down the laces and that's it. So that's not much there to show on that one, but I'm putting it in my WIP parade so you can all hold me accountable to say, did you finish the Chew Toy puppies, Erin? So then the next thing on my WIP list is a project I did not touch at all last year. And I am telling myself again, like this is the year that I'm going to either finish it or UFO it. So this is Tigger. I call him water. Because it's sort of watercolor. I've done the equivalent Winnie the Pooh a long time ago, and so I bought them together actually. So I've owned this kit now since 2004. So I've owned it forever. But I started it, and I need to either work on it or give it up. So this is the year that I'm going to make that decision. It's on my WIP Go board. So I'm going to make a good faith effort. And so here's where it's at. It's on 14 count Ada, using all the called for things in the pattern. But I don't know if it's the fractional stitches or what it was that just made me go, but I just need to really get in and get this done. So maybe if I chart it into Pattern Keeper, using my charting software, then maybe that'll help, but who knows? So, but this is officially my oldest WIP that I still have to put cross stitches in. So this is going to get several calls on my WIP Go board, because my goal this year is to WIP down. So put that away. And this is actually in a project bag that is super special to me. You can't buy this anyplace. When my mother passed away in April, when we were home starting to clean out her stuff, she had saved my curtains from my nursery. I was a Winnie the Pooh baby, and I grabbed the curtains. I'm like, I need to do something with that. And a friend of mine, Virginia in Virginia, makes project bags. And so I asked her, and I offered a pair, and she refused. But she made it. So she took my curtains and made project bags out of my nursery curtains. And so I have several project bags in here that are from various curtains that my mom had saved. So I thought that was a really neat way to keep the memory, repurpose, and make it useful. So that is Tigger watercolor. So then my next project is not in a fancy project bag. It needs to be, but it's not. So this is a project called Bring Coffee. And this was a kit that my mother-in-law gave me the first year that I knew her, when she found out I was a cross-stitcher. She also was a cross-stitcher needle pointer, and so it was great to have something that we could share. So she bought me this kit, and this was my New Year's Day start in 2010. And I did not get any stitches in on this in 2025. And so this is another one of those projects that pretty much I have to say I'm either going to finish it or I'm going to UFO it. I don't want this to be in my WIP pile again next year, because it just needs to be done. And it's actually in a various, not bad state of completion. So here's where I'm at. I have the words, I have most of the woman done. I just got to do some back stitching. And literally then it's just the frame. So if I can knock out what few stitches are left in her dress and her mouth, I might be able to salvage this without a frame. So I really want to finish this in honor of my mother-in-law, because she bought this before she even knew me, and this fits me perfect, and this is totally perfect. So that is Bring Coffee, and I believe it was a Dolly Mama's kit from, I don't know, another Jan Lynn kit. I don't even know if you can still find these other than maybe on eBay. So that is all being stitched on the fabric and the floss that came in the kit. All right, so my next oldest WIP after that. So this will be WIP number 4. I have it listed as 3 on my list. This is one of my major focus projects this year, because I would like to get, again, you're going to hear a theme here, get it all finished up. But this is Antique Fire Truck from Busilla. This is the Busilla cross stitch kit. I picked this up from Joann Fabrics back in like 2006, maybe 2007, when I was first getting really back into cross stitch. And I started this and then I abandoned it because I made so many mistakes. I couldn't figure out where I went wrong, but I knew I wanted to restart it. So I restarted this probably somewhere around 2015 is the date I had written down. I don't know exactly which month. And this is going to be a gift for my dad. So, I mean, it should get done because I've been saying it's going to be a gift for my dad for 10 years now. But my dad collects antique fire trucks. He's a firefighter, and he belongs to an organization that works for the preservation and education of the antique fire apparatus. And he actually owns a fire truck that looks very similar to this. So this is about 75% of the way done. In 2025, well, here, let me show you it first. So here's where I'm at. So the truck is done. I am now working through back stitching, and I am working through the background. So I was able to find a way to get this charted into Pattern Keeper. So I know that I have about 75% of this done. So in 2025, I put in 1,416 stitches, and that was mostly in the background. So this is going to be another focus piece because I would like to get this finished for my dad's birthday in September, or at the very least be able to give it to him for Christmas. So I am going to be definitely getting some working on this, just even a little bit every day, an hour every day, or pick it up and just, the fun stuff's done. The fire truck itself is done. The boring stuff is the background, and that's the part that I tend to lose steam on. So I just need to power through and get her done. So that was Antique Fire, it's called Fire Engine, but I call it Antique Fire Truck because it is an antique fire truck. By the way, everything that you see here, unless I say differently, is using the called for threads, especially if it came in a kit, because my first cross-stitching attempts always came in kits, and so I didn't know any different for a long time. So I have a lot of stuff from kits. All right, so let's see. The next one here, this is definitely going to be a finish because I just have to conquer my hatred of French knots. So this is, I'm going to see, where's the picture? Don't tell me I don't have that. Here it is. So this is one that got some stitches last year. So this is Thomas Kincaid's Cinderella. This is a smaller version. This is like 5x7 version. And I believe that this is one of those kits that, the only way you can find it is to spend some good money on eBay now. But when I bought this from Joann's as a kit back in 2011 or so. And I started this around 2016. So let me show you. In 2025, I pretty much have, I literally have it mostly done. All the cross stitches are done. All the back stitches are done. But the French knots are not. And I thought I could get away with avoiding the French knots. But if I look at it, like, there's going to be some, like the prince is carrying a bouquet. And you really need to get those in. There's some French knots here in the flowers. And up here in the flowers. So I just need to get over my hatred of French knots. Or pay somebody a lot of money to just finish this off for me so I can get it framed and up on my wall. So this is one that, again, should not see the light of day in my next WIP parade, honestly, because Why am I letting it sit in my thing when I only have some French knots left to do? So this, last year I put in 576 stitches, and I was able to finish all of the cross stitches and all the back stitches. So I just need to do the things that, like the French knots for the eyes, the French knots that make sense. Because, and if you look at the cover photo, you can see how the French knots really, really make certain parts of it pop. So Cinderella, here is that. All right, so that was project number 5. Only 70 to, 65 left to go. All right, so then my next project is in this project bag that came from the Black Needle Society during their Summer and Stars Hollow Retreat. So they did a series of Golden Girls themed retreats, and this was one of them. So in here lives my Stony Creek Collection Summer in the Village. And there's more in the series. I actually own all 4 of them, and I bought all the fabric to kit them all up the same. Of course, now that I understand a little bit, I kind of wish that I bought Lugana as opposed to Ada, but at this point I'm committed. But I've always said, before I work on the next one, I need to get the one that I currently have done. So, this is a project that I worked on last year, but I don't have a percentage for you because it's not in Pattern Keeper. So let me show you. So here is what it looks like right now. By the way, I'm also, when I can, I'm also putting up photos of where these projects started in 2025 so you can hopefully see some of the progress. So I'm hoping that, you'll say, hey, look, she made some progress. So so here's what it looks like. So this is as far over as it goes, and I have the back stitch started. And I wish I had started back stitching as I went when I started this. But again, I started this on October 1st, 2018, and I have learned a lot in 7 years. So one of which is that there's more kinds of fabric than Ada, and another thing is backstitch as you go. But this is, I'm using, again, the called for threads, including, there's a silk in here for the outline. And in 2025, I put in 868 stitches. So this, I feel like I just have one more house to go and the back stitching to go. So this is going to be on, this whole area needs to get filled in. So this is on my WIP Go board for focusing on a finish. Again, just the whips of shame. All of these need to get done. They need to get out of my rotation. So that is Summer in the Village from Stony Creek. And I do believe that you can find you can still find those pretty easily. All right, my next one is actually quite a big one, and I did not get any progress on it this last year, and I'm upset. So this is the Hogwarts crest from Little Mojo, and you'll see a picture here of what it's supposed to look like. This was a free pattern. I don't know if it's still available, but if you Google Harry Potter cross stitch Little Mojo, it might come up. And so I started this on December 14th, 2018 as part of a Harry Potter stitching challenge. And this is huge. So again, I'm doing some 14 count Ada because I didn't know any better. So this is where I'm at, and this is huge. This is a 24 by 22 stretcher bar that I have this in. So it makes working on it quite interesting, but I like how it keeps the fabric wrinkle free. So I did not get any stitches in on 2025 on this. But this, I'm hoping to get some in 2026. This project itself, when I was looking at this is 59% of the way done. So I'm over halfway. So now it's all fill in. I did all the black first, and then now I'm working on filling in. So this makes a great project. So if I'm challenge stitching for fandom and it wants me to stitch in a certain color, this one, as long as it's red, green, or yellow, I got you. So anyhow, so this is one that is, I can't guarantee is going to be a finish this year, but I really would like to make some solid progress on this and get this down to at least, 75% by this year. I think that's a reasonable goal, because overall there's like thousands. And again, if I had known any better, I would have probably done a much smaller count of Ada, but it is what it is. I still like it. All right, so keeping going with the projects that just need to get done. This is Stained Glass Cross from Artiste. And this was a project I got for Christmas. Actually, I bought it for myself for Christmas in 2018. And this was my January 1st, 2019 New Year's start. And this got nothing in on 2025. Because it seemed like I just wanted to keep working on like all the new stuff. Especially now that most of my things are in Pattern Keeper. It is much easier to work on that rather than on a paper project. But I was able to, again, find a way to get this charted into, I can't use the PDF that I found does not work with Pattern Keeper, but it works with Markup RXP. So I just have not gone in and like kind of filled in everything. So I don't have numbers for you on this one. But I'm hoping to get, so this is where I'm at. I really do like working on this, with the exception of the gold metallic. And it, again, this came as a kit, so this is the fabric and this is the floss that came with the kit. So I've already committed to a lot of the gold, so I'm just kind of gonna work with it and just take my time. This, I think it's a reasonable expectation that this could get a finish this year or close to a finish if I buckle down and get going on it. So we shall see. But I had no stitches in on this last year, and that is a shame. So these are going to get some stitches in. In fact, this was one of my WIP Go calls this month. So you should see some progress on this in my January update video. Hold me to that. So let's stick that back in the bag. All right. And keep going here. So I've done that one. All right, so then my next start that I'm going to show you is actually one that I started and I have not touched since the day I started it. It is one of the companion pieces to Summer in the Village. And this is Spring in the Village by Stony Creek. So I started this one back on December 10th, 2019, because there was a stitching prompt for one of my stitching challenges that said, stitch on a project that has a twin. So I was working on Summer in the Village. So I said, well, what the heck? I have it, I have them all kitted up. I do. I legit have all of the In the Village series kitted up. So I said, well, let me get started on it. And then I haven't touched it since. So here's where I'm at. Big start, I know. And the reason I'm putting this in my WIP parade is because when I finish Summer in the Village, this will be the next piece I pick up on. So again, this is still on 14 count Ada using the called for DMC. And I don't even know how many I have in, but it's not a lot. So, but it is one of the WIPs that is making its way onto the WIP list this year, because it had been sitting kind of, not really in the UFO pile, but I started it and then said, no, I need to finish the summer piece before I work anymore on the spring piece. So that's where I'm at on that one. So that was Spring in the Village. All right, my next project, we're now getting into my 2020 starts. So yay, so these were the starts that saw me through COVID. So this one, let me just find the cover photo first for it, because it's another 14 count Ada on the stretcher bars. But this one here is called Home in New Orleans. And there is a whole series of them. My mother-in-law has one that she stitched. I'm working on this one. And then I have one more in the series. And this is designed from a lady named Jean Patterson Terrell. I don't even know if she's still alive, but it is an exclusive to Accents in Ink. Accents and Stitches is the New Orleans-based cross-stitch LNS. You can find them in Metairie, Kenner, Louisiana. And a lot of their stuff is also carried at a store in the French Quarter called the Quarter Stitch. So my husband's family is from New Orleans, so I have a lot of New Orleans-based patterns. So that is what this will look like. And so let me show you where I'm at now on it, make sure I got the right numbers here. So in 2025, I put in just about 1,000 stitches. And so pretty much the only thing I have left now is the border. And borders are the bane of my existence. I don't know why. Although I think I'd rather do borders than I would French knots. So this is one that, again, you know, each one of these little fleur-de-lis is about 200 stitches. So just kind of sit and just knock them out. So I'm hoping that one good month of stitching will finish this up. So this is one that, again, it should not see the light of day in another WIP parade, I hope. I really, really hope not. But I do like the piece. And I'm not going to start the companion piece to this until I finish this. So that is kind of my rule for starts this year. No starts until I finish something. And so a lot of these pieces may have a companion piece that goes with them. I said I'm not going to start the next set in the series until I finish the one I have. All right, so going through, wow, I'm just looking at my list going, everything else is a full coverage. So that'll be later on in the video. I do have, it looks like one more in my 20, and this was a start on September 23rd, 2023. And this is the Schoolhouse Rock Stitch Along from the Black Needle Society. So backstory on this, Laura, who is one half of the Black Needle Society, works at a Title I school in the Kansas City area. And so they're always trying to find funding for just little things. So Katie, her daughter, they came up with this idea. They said, okay, everybody at the school put whatever you need on the wish list, and then we're going to publish the wish list to our fans, our subscribers, whatever. And anybody who purchases at least $25 of items off the wish list will get a copy of the Stitch Along. And so the first year was Schoolhouse Rock. Then next year it was the Magic School Bus, which you'll see later on. And then this past year they did a Dr. Seuss one, which I have not started yet. And I just thought that was great. As a teacher myself, I know how important it is to get some of those little things that you know, the school district's not necessarily going to pay for oodles of extra pencils. And when you are working in a Title I school, your family base does not necessarily have the money to help supply that anyway. So this is worked out really well. So in 2025, let me see where I'm at on that. I put in 550 stitches in on this. So here is where I'm at now. So this is a whopping 12% done. Again, this is one of those, I started it and that's it. So I'm using the called for DMC, and this is a 32 count blue, Wapo blue is my notes from Needle Bling Design. So I do like it as a pretty turquoise. This is a 32 count linen. And so this, again, my goal for this is to get it to at least 50%, would be quite nice this year. But definitely I need to do more than just a handful of stitches here and there. I need to do some good times of actually sitting and stitching on that. And this is in a project bag that I picked up at a Black Needle retreat from the freebie table. All right, and so those are all of my projects that I started 2023 or earlier, with the exception of my full coverages. So let me reset myself and I will continue on with all of my 2024 starts. All right, let's get into all of my starts from 2024. 2024 is when I really started to go hog wild with a lot of the online stitching challenges, including Mania, including the 12 Days of Christmas. And it was just seemed like every time I saw something I wanted to start, I started it. So I still have quite a few projects from 2024 in my rotation. Some of them I'm hoping to get finished this year, but I'm just hoping to make progress on all of them. So let's start with what my New Year's start was. It actually, today is its WIP anniversary. But this is the Electric Light Parade Mandala. This is from Atomic Tiki Pins. And I am stitching this on a black Aida, which I'm not the biggest fan of this one. And I was about to scrap it until I discovered it works so much better in a Q-snap than in a hoop. But I still am having some issues with it. But in 2025, I put in a whopping 120 stitches. And so here is, kind of fold it up here a bit. So here's where I'm at. All of that gold is a DMC metallic, and it is the bane of my existence. And so I have since discovered things like étoile, or not étoile, but Krynic and the Soak Lame braid, Petite Treasure braid, things like that. So seeing as that I only have 5% of this done, and this is considered a back because it's going to be huge when it's done, I may end up just scrapping this and starting over this year. But I really do love the Electric Light Parade because it is probably my favorite thing from Disney as a kid, and now you can't see it. So I want to make sure I get some progress in on this for sure. Regardless of whether it's a restart or just trying to see how I can manage to keep the stuff I use. But this, let me put it back in the bag and then I'll show you the bag. So you remember how I said that I had that poo bag that was made from my mom's curtains that she saved? Well, this is the same. Growing up, after I grew out of poo in the 80s, I grew into popples. And so she had saved my popples curtains. So my friend Virginia made me some popples bags, and I absolutely love them. So this is bright and colorful like the Electric Light Parade is, so this made so much sense. So that was my January 2024 start. And then I'm going to get into a lot of the projects I started for Mania that year. I did fandom stitching that year, and we had some prizes for Mania starts. So some of my Mania starts I've already finished, but the ones that are carrying into 2026 are as follows. The first one is Camper Sampler from Silver Creek Samplers. This was a Nashville Needle Market release when in 2024, so I immediately grabbed it because as the hiking stitcher, I love to be outside, and I thought this was absolutely perfect. So this is going to be so in 2025 I did put some stitches in on it, and here's where I'm at. Excuse the park threads. I am a parker, so I know some people that drives them nuts, but for me it works. So here's where I'm at. I am at 50% according to my pattern keeper, because I did chart the pattern into pattern keeper. And in 2025, I put in 543 stitches. So mostly to bring, the wood and to bring down the stuff here. So now I'm on to the words. So this is stitched on a piece of, I believe it is, I don't remember the count of it, but this is called Blue Ridge from Atomic Ranch. And I live near the Blue Ridge Mountains, so I immediately had to snap this up, and I figured camping, because where do I camp? The Blue Ridge Mountains. So this worked absolutely perfect for this. So again, this is still using the called for DMC. And this I am hoping will be a finish this year, because if I'm halfway done and it's just words left to do, a good solid weekend of stitching should take care of that quite quickly. So that lives in this frog project bag that from, oh gosh, I had the name of it, from the 805 Stitcher. So you can find her on Etsy, I believe. And then, so that one was started on May 7th. So on May 8th, I started this project. This is a snowflake, Quaker style. This is from Oritim. I can never say it quite right. This was in a very long ago Black Needle Society, like Christmas in July box. And I finally said, yeah, I'm going to give this a go. Because normally Quakers are not my thing, but I have grown to really enjoy this. So, in 2025, I put in 395 stitches in on this. And so I am now at 46% complete. So here's where I'm at. That's what it looks like. Zoom it up so you can see a little bit. So this is being stitched on a fabric called Christmas Night, which I thought was very, very appropriate for this. And I am using white étoile for the snowflake because it does give it just the little bit of the shimmeriness, and it's not pure white because I grew up in way northern New York. I know dang well snow is not always pure white. So I thought this would work out really, really gorgeous. So this is going to be my snow stitch for this winter. Every day that we get some snow, I'm going to try to put some stitches in on this. And because I am now down under 3,000 stitches left to go on this, I would like this to be a finish. So that would be Quaker Snowflake from Oritim Designs. In the nondescript project bag from Amazon. All right, and then skipping through, so that was my May 8th, 2024 start. On May 9th, I pulled out another New Orleans-based piece, and this one's quite special. So let me show you first. So this is a needlepoint ornament, actually. So this is Café du Monde. And once again, the only place that you can find it is at Accents in Stitches. And the thing that caught my eye when I was there, it said, by Gussie. Well, I only know one Gussie in New Orleans, and she's a stitcher. So I called her up and I sent her a picture of this and said, hey, is this your piece? And she said, yes. So I had to buy it. So this year I started it. So the cover photo is what the needlepoint ornament looked like, but Accents and Stitches actually went through and converted it to a cross stitch pattern. So I'm stitching this on a piece of 16 count white Aida. And here's my notes here. Here's what it looks like. Here's where I'm at the moment. So I put in 277 stitches in on this year. So I'm currently sitting at 24% done. I try to work on, my goal this year is to try to bring this to a lot of my monthly sit and stitches at Old House Winery, because Gussie moved from New Orleans to Virginia, and so we get to hang out. And so it's nice to be able to work on this with the designer there. So I'm hoping that this becomes a finish this year because it's not terribly big. And then I can see about trying to finish this off into an ornament. So, Café du Monde, and this is in this gorgeous, hang on, let me zip it back up here. This is in the project bag from Lynn X Stitches Creates, and she has her own floss tube, and she has her own Instagram, so you can go ahead and get project bags from her. And this is the perfect pattern for a New Orleans based piece. And this is not the only bag I have in this pattern, but this is my only Lynn bag with this pattern. All right, so then if I keep rolling through on my new starts, I was really on a roll in 2024 with new starts. But now comes the point where I actually need to sit down and actually finish them, because some of these have barely gotten any work on it since. But this is the next one. I started this one on May 10th. This is the Grand Teton Wildlife Sampler. And this is from the Posey Low collection. And you can find a lot of her designs and kits in the national parks. So when I went to the Grand Tetons in Yellowstone, I saw this at a gift shop and immediately went ahead and grabbed it. So this came fully kitted up. So it has the DMC and had the fabric to go with it. So in 2025, I feel like I did make some progress. So if you see where I started 2025, it wasn't a whole lot. But in 2025, I put in the rest of the buffalo. So that's 485 stitches. So I'm now sitting at 21% done. So I'm going to have a couple more animals to go. And this actually, now that I have this charted into Pattern Keeper, is actually quite a, this will go by fairly quickly. So I'm hoping that when this gets called for my temperature stitching, I'll be able to get another 1,000 in on this easily. And I'll talk about my plans for 2026 here in a little bit. But this one, because I want to prioritize my starts from before 2023, my 2024 starts are not going to get as much work on them as I'm sure they would like, I would like, simply because I just need to whip down some of my older stuff first. So, and then the next project was actually a restart. I don't have a picture of where I was with it, but I started it on one fabric and I just didn't care for it at all. So I restarted this. This is Ruskin's Penguins from Modern Folk Embroidery. And I started this on May 18th, 2024. And in 2025, I put in 588 stitches. So I am now sitting at 12%. So here's where I'm currently at. And yes, this is on one of my only other ones on the stretcher bars, but it works for this project. And it's black. So the two colors, you've got black, and then I started using Snowball from Classic Colorworks for the white. So this has not gotten a lot of work. It's probably not going to get a whole lot of work in 2026, but this is part of my temperature stitching rotation. So when this gets called for it should be good for 1,000 stitches. So however that works out, but right now this is only sitting at 12% done. So it'd be nice to get to 20% even. But you're right, one cannot be angry when you look at a penguin. I love penguins. Upward and upward. I said I was very prolific in 2024. All right, so then the next day, so that was a May 18th start. And then this next one was my May 19th start. And this is one I was hoping to have finished last year, but such is life. This is 324 from Works by ABC. And I actually got a lot of stitches in on this in 2025. So if you see the difference from where I started to where I am now, I put in 5,530 stitches in this year, in 2025. So I'm now sitting at 58%. So here's where I'm at. I actually did a little bit yesterday because this already got called for temperature stitching. So I've now found the top row, and so I still am working in diagonals. And last year I was trying to work on this to get a motif a day done, so that way I was finished by the end of the year, but I got so far behind, and so I'm not trying to stress myself out. Stitching is supposed to be fun. So this is only sitting on my temperature stitching wheel right now. So right now I just got 200 in, and so when it gets called again, I've got about 800 more stitches to go before I rotate it out. So can't promise anything, but I really do like the colors. So this is where I'm currently sitting for 324. And that is on a piece of 16 count Aida using all the called for colors. All right, so that was, let's see, that was now that I'm looking at my notes here, that was started on May 19th. So May 20th, I started a project almost every single day in May. just because I have so much in my stash. I said I just need to start working on it. So this is Hello Summer from Peppermint Purple. And I don't know, do I have a, I think I have a copy of no, that's the pattern. I want the actual, okay, so that's going to be what it looks like when it's all done. And so this is one of my black work pieces, which I've also discovered I really enjoy doing black work. So I started this and I worked on this in 2025. And I put in, let's see, I give you a rough estimate. I put in about 243 stitches because black work is notoriously difficult to count. You can't count it just like you do on Pattern Keeper. But I do feel like I am more than 25% of the way done. So this is where I'm at right now. So in 2025, I put in, I went up here with it and I went down here with it. So those 200 stitches actually took me quite far. So this is one that, again, if it doesn't get finished this year, it should get finished soon because I have the Hello Autumn wreath in the series next. So this is, again, called for DMC. And so this will be a nice summer piece. All right, there we go. I hope the camera didn't move too much because I had to take things and move it around. But, oh, almost forgot to tell you. This was the third set of curtains my mother had saved. So this is now a beach project bag that matches the project Hello Summer perfectly. My mom, her favorite color was yellow, and she loved Florida. She loved flip-flops. So she bought all this fabric with the intention of trying to make curtains, and she never did. But again, I grabbed the fabric and said, I can do something. I'm sure a friend of mine can do something with this. And so I've got several of these flip-flop project bags hanging out. So that was Hello Summer. All right. And then I was good on new starts until I went to StitchCon that year. So in 2024, I went to my only StitchCon, and I have to admit, I had a blast. I met so many amazing people, but it was more expensive than I was expecting and a tad bit overwhelming. So I honestly don't know if I will go to StitchCon again in the future. But when I was there, a whole bunch of people decided that they were going to kit up and start Beach Wrap by the Artsy Housewife. And I got in on the action. So the idea was that we were going to all stitch it and then have it finished for 2025 StitchCon. Well, I did not go, but a whole bunch of my friends that did go to 2025 StitchCon had finished it, and they all rang the bell together. I unfortunately have not finished it, but this is, we'll see where we get to. So in 2025, I put in 745 stitches on this. So now I'm sitting at 51%, and here's where I am currently at. I am really working on the actual seagull, and then I just have to put in the words and the rest of this. So this is stitched on a piece of fiber on a whim, I think. It's nice and soft. But the colorway is called Cream and Sugar, and I'm using the called for Fancy Threads and a DMC mix. So I didn't make any conversions myself. So I have to, I give major props to all of my friends who already finished Beach Wrap, but my goal is to try to have this done. If I'm going to finish it in 2025, I want to finish it before June. Just, because that's when StitchCon is. And also because the Artsy Housewife, the next one in what I would like to call this series is Trash Panda, that she released as a Patreon, and so hopefully it'll come out in Nashville this year. And so I can't start Trash Panda until I finish Beach Wrap. So this is where I'm at on Beach Wrap by that Artsy Housewife. All right, and then my next new start in 2024 was a July 4th start, and it makes sense because I started 4th of July rules from Primrose Cottage. And I had actually started this on that cream fabric that you saw, but I didn't really care for it, so I restarted it using black. So this one I started, and I only put 342 stitches in 2025. But this is just on a piece of black Aida. And of course the part I want to show you is at the very top here. But I really, really like how the colors are popping on the black. So this is the first one of her rules series that I've started. I think I have all of them in my stash. But again, my rule to myself is you can't really start one until you finish another. So I have, if I want to start, you know, stitching rules, hive rules, Christmas rules, whatever, I need to get going on 4th of July rules. And so because this is the 250th anniversary of the United States, this is probably a really good one to focus on this year. So this is going to be part of my temperature stitching rotation. Did I give you? I think, yeah, I gave you all the stats. So this was a July 4th, 2024 start. And I'm currently sitting at about, no, that's not right. Here we are. Yeah, 12% complete. So again, even if I can hit it up to 20%, I will be happy. And this is sitting in a project bag I picked up at StitchCon that year. This is from Goose Creates. And it's little America gnomes. I love them. They're so cute. So, perfect for my 4th of July rules. That way. All right, and then 2024 was the year that I also went full tilt into Frogwarts mug, and said I'm going to make a good faith effort to win. Well, I ended up actually winning the whole thing in 2024. So I did have one new start during Frogwarts in 2024 to fit a prompt. Because the prompt was having something with a curse on it or a curse word. So I found online, I don't even have the notes on who designed this, so good luck. This is FAFO, or as I like to say, fuck around and find out. So in 2025, I put in a whole 79 stitches, and so you see my difference between 2025 and now. But this is one that, you know, I sit down and again, give it a weekend. I should be able to have the whole thing knocked out in a weekend or so. So this is about 12% done. I'm starting to see a theme here. I get things to 12% and then stop. So if I can get this to 20% this year, that's great. But I actually really, really like it because it is a good, good mantra. Don't fuck around and find out. I dare you. So that was my Frogwarts start that year. And then in 2024, I went to Camp Black Needle for the first time. And so at Camp Black Needle, part of your haul is they give you the project bag with the snail and the project. And then inside, they give you all the stuff you need. So this came fully kitted up. So this is a good day to celebrate. And I am stitching this on, I believe, I'll tell you here in a second, because I think this one I have. This is on a piece of Be Stitch Me fabric called Vintage. You know, and I have the snail, so that snail's been finished for a while, but I just haven't cut it out yet. But here is where I got to in 2026. Not a whole lot. I said this one, I literally started it just to say that I started it. And then in 2025, this year, I put in 324. So this is now at 10%. And so this is going to be one that if it comes up saying seasonal stitching, but it came with all the called for fancy floss. It has its nice little floss ring. And so it came with everything, including the needle minder that you needed. So thank you, Black Needle Society. All right. And then in the next year, so the next start I have was from October 2024, and that was the Magic School Bus Stitch Along. So just like the Schoolhouse Rock Stitch Along that I talked about earlier, this was the same concept of a fundraiser for Laura's school, with the pattern being based on the Magic School Bus this year. So in 2025, I was able to put in 1,018. So this did get over 20%. And here's where I'm at. So this is stitched using the called for DMC. They gave a fancy floss and a DMC option. I stitch with DMC because that's what I have in my stash. But this is stitched on a piece of Night Sky from Be Stitch Me, and I absolutely love this colorway. Absolutely love this. I am now currently sitting at 21% on this. And so, again, I would like to try to get to 40% or, halfway if I'm lucky this year on this. I mean, 1,000 stitches really brought out the extra stuff here. So that's sitting in a 80s related project bag from the Black Needle Society. Because, again, I love the colors and it matches it. So then for Stitch Hauntober, I decided to start a new piece. And so I had been eyeballing Lola Crow's The Haunted Library ever since it was a stitch along. I was just getting into FlossTube and Instagram, and so I had never heard of it, so I didn't even know about, what it was. But I really liked watching people stitch it, and then seeing it finished in a few places finally made me say, I want to start this. So I started the Haunted Library on October 11th, 2024. And in 2025, I put in 1,103 stitches to get up to 14%. So here is where I'm at. I am trying valiantly to stitch it in the same order that the Sal was released. So I'm still very much on the stairwell. But who knows? So I anticipate getting a little bit more work on this year for Stitch Hauntober and for temperature stitching. And then if for some crazy reason I do not like the Lola Crow stitch along that is released this year, highly unlikely because I love all of her stuff, I might stitch this one during the sale in place of it. So we'll see. But this is the Haunted Library by Lola Crow, using all the called for DMC on a piece of, do I have the fabric? Did I have the fabric on here? Piece of Mellow Stone from Atomic Ranch, I believe. That in its nondescript Amazon project bag. And then I decided to do the 12 days of stitching that year. And so I didn't have a lot of Christmas pieces started, so I decided to, so I've got 4 here that I started that I'm still working on. So if you have been watching my FlossTube for a while, you have seen this. This is Christmas at Hawk Run Hollow. So let me show you what that's going to look like. So this is Christmas at Hawk Run Hollow. And what I'm planning on doing is I'm actually probably eliminating the bottom 3 and just doing a square of 9 because that completes the Christmas Carol that it goes with. And so what I decided to do was I'm taking a page from Nancy the Disorderly Stitcher on FlossTube and on Instagram, who is working on a Hawk Run Hollow, and she took each square and divided it into 4. And so her goal is to try to do a quarter of the square each month. So it should take 4 months to finish each square. So that's kind of where I decided to go with that. I did not keep up with that in 2025 for a couple of reasons. Number 1, I had a lot of other things going on. Number 2, the second square was way more than I anticipated. So let me go, while you look at where I started 2025, let me show you where I'm starting 2026. Here is where I'm at. So I have the first 2 squares done. I said the second square took me way longer than it should have because that is mostly full coverage. But now the third square is kind of similar to the first square, so I am anticipating that the third square won't take me too long. So I work on this twice a month, usually on the 12th or 13th, and then again on the 24th or 25th, to try to get 25% of the way done. So this is, maybe 13% done so far for square 3. So I anticipate finishing square 3, sometime in March, and then moving down to square 4. So ideally, at the end of 2025, I would like to be, let's see, I would like to be somewhere down in the 5th square by the end of 2026. Sorry, I keep saying, did I say 2025? Silly me. But this is on, I'm using the DMC conversion, so I'm not using the fancy floss on this. And this is on a piece of 32 count platinum Lugana. And I am approximately 13% of the way done with everything. But in 2025, I put in 9,826 stitches. And that was pretty much all of this, all of block 2. So be looking for that one. That's gonna be something that you will see pretty much every month in one of my floss tubes, because I said I work on it once a month. So I started Christmas at Hawk Run Hollow on December 5th, 2024, and hang on, I missed one. So the day before that, I started Bauble Birds. So let me show you that. I had them in my pile wrong. So Bauble Birds was kind of like my birthday start that year, because my birthday's right around that time. And this is a project designed by Amity of the Hathaway Stitchers, and she calls her designs are boomerang stitches. And I saw her kind of finalizing this piece at StitchCon, and I said I absolutely want to stitch it when it comes out. So when she released it, I grabbed it and I started it. And so in 2025, I was able to put in 737 stitches to get it to 25%. So let me show you where I'm at. So I have one of the ornaments done. I have the second one almost done. And I'm in the middle of doing a little bit of conversion. So I'm substituting out some of the DMC colors for some shiny silk lame or petite treasure braid in some cases, because these classic Christmas ornaments were all about the shine. So I wanted to bring some of that in. So I'm using DMC A12 for the white. And actually I'm in the process of probably ripping out I had the hooks. So I'm going to be restitching those using a petite treasure braid as well. So just a few customizations, but that's what you can do with your cross stitch. So this is on just regular 16 count Aida, subbing in that silk lame braid. And so now I'm sitting at about 25%. So if I'm hoping to get to 50% this year, I will call it good. So that was Bauble Birds. Put that there. All right, so there, let's see. So I did have 3 more left. I can't read my own notes. So then on December 5th, in addition to starting Christmas at Hawk Run Hollow, I decided to start Sugar and Spice and Everything Nice. This is what it looks like from Artist Designs. And this was in a previous Nice List box from the Black Needle Society, so it came all kitted up with all the called for fabric and DMC. So that was actually quite nice, and it's actually, this will be one that should get knocked out this year, because I have less than 1,000 stitches in on it, or to go on it. This is I've only put in 251 stitches this year, and I'm already sitting at 35%. So this is on a piece of powder pink splash Lugana, using the called for DMC colors. So I put in 251 stitches, mostly down here. I don't know how easy is that to get washed out or not. But this is on my Focus on a Finish stuff, because I am at less than 2,000 stitches left on it. So I am hoping to get this one finished up this year. And this is living in a project bag from a past Black Needle Society box, because that's where I get 99% of my stitching materials. And then on December 6, 2024, I opened up the Nice List box that year and saw this pattern and immediately started it. So this is from Silver Creek Samplers on the Naughty List. Because I have owned a Beagle, I absolutely understand this to a T. And I love Diane's pattern, so of course I had to start it. And so it did, once again, it came with the called for fabric and the called for DMC. So that was pretty easy to get started. So in 2025, I put in 605 stitches. And this was actually one of my travel projects that went with me. So here's where I'm at. I was able to do a lot. This is going to be a lot of fill in. So I'm going to try to just keep doing some outlines and then fill in 2026. So you can see I've got the dog's ear. I'm working on Santa's pants. And then I'll get his boots outlined and get the words in. So this is right now sitting at about 18%. So if I can hit 30, 40% on this next year, I would be quite happy. Finishing it, oh my gosh. But I'm also going to be realistic because you see how many WIPs I have. You know, it's possible, but it's not probable. And then the last piece that I started in 2024 lives in this project bag from the Black Needle Society, from one of their Nice List boxes. And this is London Calling. And this is a design from Emma Congdon at Stitchrovia. So this I'd seen in the World of Cross Stitch magazine in October 2024-ish. And I immediately grabbed it and recharted it into Pattern Keeper and started it. So in 2025, I put in just over 1,000 stitches. So I've got to 24% on this now. And most of those stitches were actually done when I was in London in December. So I figured if I'm going to London for Christmas, I have to work on the London Christmas project. So here's where it currently sits. And this is stitched on a piece of, not 16 count Ada, no, this is on, I have it right here. This is on a piece of silver, 32 count Lugana Silver Mist from Mystic Fabrics. Why I put, I don't know what I did with my notes. And so I have finished up St. Paul's Cathedral. I have finished up the Tower of London, the Tower Bridge. And so just kind of keep working around. And this is one of, I believe, 4 snow globes that I've seen released in the World of Cross Stitch magazine. So I believe she's got this one. I believe Tokyo she just released, Rio, and I'm blanking on the other one. So I'll probably do those at some point, but this one, because I was in London for Christmas, I had to do. So this is London Calling. And those were all of the WIPs I started in 2024. Whew. All right. So in 2025, I started gosh knows how many projects, because it seemed like every time I saw something, I wanted it. Or as I'm going through my stash, I'm going, I actually think I have the stuff to kit this up. So my next section of my WIP parade are all of my 2025 starts. So let's get started. So on January 1st, I started 324 The Sequel from Works by ABC. And I started this as a stitch along with Liz from Stitch by Liz and Miss Chloe and a few other of my Australian cross stitch friends. And the idea was that we were going to stitch one motif a day on each project, on each one to finish in a year, or to finish in 324 days. Well, I'm very proud to say that Liz has done that. I think Chloe finished it. I did not. So, in 2025, though, I was able to put in 7,453 stitches in. And so here it is where I'm starting 2026 with the sequel. And I really, really do like the all the different kind of black work patterns on this. But here's where reading the instructions would help. So I just pulled out a piece of 16 count Aida and cut it to the same size as my original 324. Yeah, if I'd actually read the instructions, I should have gone with, like, if I wanted it to be the same size, this probably needed to be a 20 count. So unfortunately, I'm going to have to eliminate 2 rows over here and a row along the bottom to make it fit. But it's still going to look really nice when it's done, even if it doesn't have 324 colors. So this is one that will show up on my temperature stitching because I'm not going to try to beat myself up to play catch up right now. Just because that's, I think, what got me to kind of stop doing this. Because each one of these motifs doesn't take very long to do. But if you miss one day and suddenly you're going, oh, I've got to do like 5 or 10 or 20 to catch up, you're just like, your brain just goes, nope. So I'm just gonna, work on this as it comes up and is called for. And we'll see what we get in 2026. But that was my New Year's new start last year. So that was the first start I had in 2025. My second one was a temperature chart. So this was a temperature chart from Satsuma Street called Local Conditions. And this was from a Black Needle Society box. And I absolutely love the color palette and everything. But just like with 324 and 324 the sequel, if you fall behind, like I would fall behind on this and suddenly my brain would be like, yeah, no. So I've kept track. I still have a chart, my paper here with all of the temperatures, the high temperatures for my area in 2025. But now I pulled all the threads, so it's now actually kitted up. So in 2026, I don't have to kind of do that guesswork. So in 2025, I put in 1,876 stitches. So I am at 20%. So I'm done with January and February, and March, and then most of April. And so this is actually going to fit quite nicely on a small corner of this. So this is an 18 count fiber on a whim called Presenting Lorelei Gilmore. So you can see it'll probably fit on just a quarter of this when it's all done. So I'm going to keep on working through that now that I know all the colors, and now I understand. I love the concept of a temperature chart. I just don't necessarily know if stitching it is for me. So it'll be a couple more years before I even give it a thought. And I said, okay, I'm not going to start anything until May, right? Wrong. I got so influenced by Instagram and my other friends stitching that when I saw this stitch along release, I jumped on it, even though I did not stay caught up at all on it. So this is the Winter Woodland stitch along from Autumn Lane Stitchery. And I started this on January 9th, which is when part 1 was released. And overall I put in 1,423 stitches, so that is, I am 16% done with the whole thing. So here is where I'm at. As you can see, I've only got part of it done, but that's okay. So this is also stitched on Be Stitch Me Night Sky. This is a piece of 18 count Aida, and I absolutely love this colorway. So this is going to be one that will show up on my temperature stitching. My 2024 and my 2025 starts, unless I say anything different, are going to be part of my temperature stitching this year. So I have them all on a wheel. So I've got a 2024 wheel, a 2025 wheel, and so that's how I'll pick my projects when they come up for temperature stitching. So with the hopes that if it gets called, it gets 1,000 stitches. So I am not anticipating finishing a lot of these projects this year unless they've got like under 2,000 stitches. So we shall see. And then I start, and then a stitch along that I am woefully behind on is from the Black Needle Society, and this is their Celebrate All Year stitch along. So with that, they released 12 patterns. So each month we got a different pattern in 2024, and it matched it. You stitch it, you fit it together, and it goes on this really nice display piece. And so I stayed caught up through most of 2024 on that until I hit October. Now I got to find, I started October, yeah, very, very minimally. So in 2025, I started, that's my rather pathetic start on the October option. So I still have October, November, and December to do. So once again, I just need to buckle down and do this when it's called for on my SAL wheel. So one of my temperature stitching categories is also stitch along. So some of these will possibly get called twice, which would be nice. Because this is under 2,000 stitches, so if this gets called, this gets finished. And then I can move on to November, December. So I said not much to show you there. I think that was a whopping 82 stitches. I'm looking at my notes. Yeah, 82 stitches. That didn't even count as a start for me. Usually a start has to be something like 200. So technically, maybe then I haven't started that. Who knows? But then that was in March 6th. So then March 9th, I got sucked into another stitch along from Forbidden Fabric Co. My husband likes to call Leanne a Forbidden Fabric Co. my crack dealer. So I've got my Black Needle Society, those are my big time suppliers, but a lot of times the stuff that Leanne releases is immediately like, just give me all your money, take my money. So this is the Empyrean stitch along from Fourth Wing, because the third Fourth Wing book was released last year. And I didn't even finish part 1, but I did start it. So I started it on March 9th, and I put in 573 stitches for the year. And so this is where I'm at. I haven't even finished the first quote. But this, when I bought this, it came kitted up. So it is kitted up with the fabric, I believe it's called Feathertail from Forbidden Fabric Co. And she sent all of the flosses for it as well. So I said, I love me a good Forbidden Fabric Co. stitch along. Yeah, that's my Gilmoreisms from a couple years ago. So I was hoping that this would be, similar, but I think last year I just overtaxed myself with all the things that I said I'm going to do. So that's why this year I am taking a pause on starts until I can get some finishes, because I have all of these great projects that have been started but haven't been touched since the day I started them. So there's that one. And then we jump into Mania. So last year, what I did for Mania was, the first thing I did was I spent a day working on all the projects I started in 2024 to at least get them some progress. And then I had several more days, so I started some more. So let's go through what I started. So the first one lives in this amazing project bag from Lynx Stitches Creates. This is her Ruth Bader Ginsburg bag. And she only made it a limited run, and I just was like, just take my money. So this is Rebel Stitcher Designs Disagree. And I absolutely love Colleen's stitches, her designs. She says exactly what I'm thinking a lot of times. And so when I saw this, I immediately grabbed it, and a whole bunch of us started it around the same time. And so here is where I'm currently at. So there is my current progress. So in 2025 total, yeah, that's about where I'm at. In 2025, I put in 788 stitches, so I'm sitting at 10% on this already. So if I can get to 25% this year, I will be very, very happy. So I am stitching this on a piece of the fabric. The fabric way is Destiny. I don't remember the dyer. And then I'm using this Threadworks variegated blue and purple. So it's Threadworks 1026, and it's this beautiful variegated blues and purples for the border. And then I have, because one of my local needle workshops was getting rid of their anchor, so I just grabbed some. And so this is anchor 161 or anchor 870 for the words. So I started out with this because I was like, that's almost a perfect match. So that's the colorway that I'm stitching it in. Other people are stitching it different, and that's the beauty of stitching. You stitch your own stitch and you do what you will. But I absolutely love this piece and can't wait to work on it more because it absolutely sums up exactly how I feel. And then, so that was my May 2nd start. On May 4th, I started Blue Ridge. And as I've said earlier, I am a hiker. I love being in the Blue Ridge Mountains. So when my friend Jessie from Jessie Marie Does Stuff, the WIP lady, she started this project, I immediately went out and I bought it and I kitted it up. And then I haven't touched it since. So this is Blue Ridge with artwork from Derek McRae. And I believe I'm stitching this on 28 count, I think. So this is my first 10th stitch attempt. And so I have not touched this since the day I started it, and that is quite a shame. So this is 403 tent stitches, which is 200 and something cross stitches. So I'm sitting at 1% on this. So this is on my full coverage WIP board because it is full coverage, although it's going to be much smaller. I believe actually, I think here I've hit the end of it. So I can't wait to get into this one a little bit more, just because I live in the Blue Ridge and I can't wait for the weather to get nicer so I can go back out there. And this is actually living in a project bag that was gifted to me by Jessie Marie because she was getting rid of it. So I figured, why not have a project that was inspired by Jessie Marie living in a project bag that she gave me. So thank you for the bag, Jessie. This is a project bag from So Much to Love, by the way. All right, and then on May 7th, I started the American flag by Erin Elizabeth Designs. This was one that I had seen in, I bought this and kitted it up at StitchCon and just never started it. So this is using a 40 count piece of linen from called Antique White. And I'm stitching using the called for Silks for You. So I have the blue and the red that were called for, and actually at StitchCon they sold them as a pack, so I could buy them both, and they said this should be more than enough. So on 40 count, I was able to put in 568 stitches this year, so that's where I'm at. So this is 17% of the way done. So this is one that I'm also going to try to focus on a finish this year for the 250th anniversary of America. But I really am loving how, like, this is my first time stitching with silks, and I absolutely am really, really enjoying the coverage, how they feel, and how they look. So I will keep that up. And so this is also my first time using 40 count. I'm doing, I believe, 2 over 2 full cross on this one because I love the coverage. Okay, so then on May 9th, 2025, I actually had another restart. So let me put this away. This is in, probably should get a bigger bag for this, but when I saw this small bag at Coloring Cotton, I said, oh, hey, look, I've got a perfect project for that. So my next project also lives in one of my Winnie the Pooh project bags. And this is Wander from the Black Needle Society. This was the first ever pattern for their, the pattern for their first ever retreat, I should say, that I didn't get to go to. But again, this fits me perfectly as the hiking stitcher, and I love being out in nature. So I had started this, and then I didn't really particularly care for the fabric. My dear friend Sue had kitted it up for me, but for whatever reason, I don't know if I just cut the fabric wrong. I wasn't particularly happy with the Lugana, so I restarted it on the Ada. So this is on a piece of fabric called Lagoon. And so I put in 258 stitches as my restart. I have to look at this. So it's not much. And I said I haven't touched this since, but this is sitting at 2%. So if I can get this to 10% this year, I will be happy. And if I can touch it more than once. So that is Wander. And then on May 11th, 2025, I started a kit that I grabbed from Joann's or Hobby Lobby a long time ago. And this is Design Works, All You Need Is Loving Coffee. And now I have a few patterns like this that I've already done. So these are actually very quick stitches. So I've only worked on this the one day that I started it. So I have 240 stitches in. And I already have the word love. So this is one that, again, if I grab it and it's called for, it's very possible that this could be a finish, because being like part black work, part back stitching, a kit that you really can't chart this into Pattern Keeper. I'm just kind of going by like what I stitched. So I mean, I really well could get this done this year. And this lives in a project bag from my friend Emily. So I'll show off my friend Emily, the pop-up stitcher. She does these amazing project bags, and so she is on Etsy. And so the dogs and the coffee, two of my favorite things. So my coffee stitching lives in my coffee bag. All right, so May 14th, I decided to start a project that I had found. It was my unicorn project, because I saw it one place and I was like, as soon as I see it, I'm going to grab it again. And it actually was in the free pile. Somebody was giving this away from Steel City Stitchers. So this is London Tier from Erin Elizabeth Designs. And this is my first of her tier series that I actually have, and I'm probably going to be getting more of these. When I recharted it into Pattern Keeper, I did not realize just how small they were. I mean, like, that's stupidly manageable. So I've only worked on this since the day I started it. But this is on a piece of Vintage Country Mocha. And there's my start. I literally just have the guard's head. So that's a whopping 109 stitches. Barely able to qualify as a new start in my book, but this is already 4%. So very easily, if this gets called for my temperature stitching, it's very possible that this could be finished. So hoping that this one doesn't sit around for the next WIP parade, but we'll see. But this is that English Tier from Erin Elizabeth. And this lives in this beautiful project bag from Victoria at Stitch and Button. It's a London project bag. And so, because London is one of my favorite places, I absolutely grabbed this. And any of my London related pieces are going to go in here at some point. So then on May 19th, I started a piece that is also near and dear to my heart, but also has not gotten any work since. So this is Grandma's Lilacs from Carolyn Manning Design. And this is really important to me because when I was growing up, I spent probably more time at my grandmother's house than I did my own. And she had a couple of lilac bushes in her backyard. So in the springtime, she would have the white ones and the purple ones. And that was just something that was just super special. So when I saw this pattern, I said, absolutely yes. I've been wanting to do a Carolyn Manning design because it is full coverage. And I love the geometric shapes of it. So this is one that's going to be on my full coverage with billboard to get some more work on, and it's going to be in my temperature stitching. So I have not worked on this since I started it, but this is on a piece of 18 count white Aida, and there's my start. I'm kind of doing this square by square by square. Everybody has their own methods of doing Carolyn Manning ones, so I mean, I'm just going to kind of try to do a square and just kind of go where the pattern leads me. So this has had 243 stitches and is sitting at 1%. So if I can get to 10% this year, I will consider it a success on this project this year. All right, and then, so then on May 23rd, I started a project that was gifted to me by my friend Sue. Sue found the pattern because she said this made me think, that made her think of me, and she went out and she kitted the whole thing up for me. So this is Begin from Bent Creek, and this was gifted to me by my friend Sue because she knows that I love to hike, and she knows that one of my dreams one day is to hike the Appalachian Trail. So she went ahead and she kitted this whole thing up for me. And so I started it on May 23rd, 2025, and I put 200 stitches in. So this is as far as I've gotten so far. I have not touched it since, and that is a shame. But I have a tree. Can't complain too much, I have a tree. So this is one that, again, I would like to easily get to 10 or 25% this year. And keep working through it. That was, let me see, let me give you the actual stuff. That is 4% done, now that I have that there. And then on May 26th, I decided I was going to start another BAP, because why not? This is not full coverage, but it is a BAP. So this is Mario Through the Ages, and it is designed by somebody called Funky Monkey, and it's a free pattern you can find online at like Reddit or whatever, and it's huge, as you can see from the picture. So I was inspired to start this because I saw Athena from Stitching Goddess Designs was doing it, and Liz from Stitch by Liz, and so I found the perfect fabric for it at Steel City, and so I started it, and I have 205 stitches in. Is it upside down? No, that's not upside down. That's right. So literally that's all I've gotten in. So that's my start. I've literally started it the one day. This is 0.41% done. So not even a full half percent yet. But this is stitched on 36 count linen robin's egg from Grace Notes Fabrics. So again, I absolutely love the color. And so this one, I will be happy to get 1% even. Because this is a BAP, and it's just going to be a progress for a while. And that lives in my pretty pink kitty bag because it actually is one of the few bags I have that can hold all the floss. Wow, I keep looking at what I've got left. I was a prolific stitcher. Wow. All right, so then on May 27th, I started a BAP on the 26th. I started a small on the 20th. So this is what it is. From Stitchy Pros, if unbearable, please go to the woods. Because yes, that absolutely is me. If I get grumpy, somebody's like, you need time in the woods, go away. So I started this one, and my meager start of 232 stitches has gotten me to 6% already. So there's my start. This is one that is under 2,000 stitches left to go. So if this ends up getting called for temperature stitching, this is going to be this will be a finish this year. So it is a quick one. So and then I have a rare frogworts pattern to show you. Because usually when I start them at retreat, I finish them at retreat. But this year, As I said, life got in the way and I wasn't competing this year. So on June 28th, I started Frogwarts Year 6. And I worked on it through most of the retreat, but didn't get it done. So it's carrying now. So here's what it's going to look like. And this is, so Frogwarts Year 7 just went on sale. So if you want to get in on the last year of Frogwarts, go to the Black Needle Society and see if you can snag a spot. But this is what it looks like. And I was able to put in 4,576 stitches on it. So here's where I'm at. So when I work on these, I tend to outline and I take it so I can find the top, bottom, and both sides of the piece, and then do the fill-ins during stitching challenges. So that's what I did. But as you can tell, I didn't quite get the thing finished because, first of all, time, but second of all, I wasn't competing this year, so I didn't really feel the massive challenge to work on that to finish it during the retreat. But I am using the called for DMC with the A12 conversion, and it's on a piece of parchment, which I think all but one of my Frogwarts pieces are on that same colorway, using the same colors. So that's Frogwarts Year 6. So this one I'm hoping is a finish, because Frogwarts, I'm going to be working on Frogwarts Year 7. So then I took a break from New Starts because I traveled a lot over the summer. But then as fall was coming into play, I said, I don't have a lot of fall pieces, so let me start some. So on the very first day of autumn, I started Let's Leap into Fall. And again, this is one that is going to be a quick stitch, but my ADD was such this year that I couldn't just sit down and just work on one piece for a whole bunch of time. So that's where I started. And I was able to put in 500, when I counted 573, and that's ish because this is all black, most of it is black work and back stitching, but that's where I'm at. You know, so I'm working this one color at a time. So I've got most of the orange done. I started the red just so I kind of had a placeholder. And I am stitching this, the back stitching and the black work is one strand and the cross stitches are 2 strands over one floss. And I believe this is on an 18 count beige. So that was a planned start. And then I had an unplanned rage start. So when Charlie Kirk was killed, I said my mental health spiraled downward because I had people who were angry that he had been killed suddenly coming out of the woodwork and somehow blaming people like me for his death. Because I said, look, you know, I'm sad that he died in that way, but I also can understand, you know, I thought that what he stood for was awful and deplorable. So I was sitting there and I had a rage start. So I rage started Vote As If. So this was a stitch along from the Notorious Needle a few years ago. And it lives in this project bag from Stitch and Button. So for those of you watching me for the first time, if you weren't sure where I stood on the political spectrum, it should be fairly obvious. So this is being stitched on a piece of 40 count Verdal even weave called Winter Moon, using the called for DMC. And I put in 370 stitches. So there you go. So that's my start so far. And that is sitting at 4%. So I am sad that this is not going to get nearly as much as I want to get on it. But that just made me feel, you know, talk about a rage start. This was my rage start. So Vote As If. All right. And then football season commenced again. And what I did last year for the Saints was I had a project that I stitched on while I was watching the Saints games. And so this year I did the same. And unfortunately, I did not get a chance to finish it because I had other things going on. But this is my project that I'm working on for the Saints games. So this is the football fleur-de-lis, and this is, again, from Accents and Stitches. And I am using, I believe I'm using the black and then 3685. And then I'm using a color and cotton floss from Frogwort. So I'm using Chocolate Frog. So this is the brown that I'm using for the actual fleur-de-lis. And I only stitched on this while watching the Saints games in 2025. So I was able to put in 2,198 stitches. And here's where I'm at. So I'm sitting at 59% of the way done. So the only thing I have left to do is to fill in the brown. The black is done. The white is done. I don't know how easy that is to see on here, but the black and the white is done. So it's all that's left is fill in. And the Saints season, sadly, mercifully, whatever you want to say, ended yesterday. So this will not be picked up and touched again until the first preseason game sometime in August. But it is on my WIP list, and this should be finished before the end of the year. And then after that, I got into kind of fall stitching, Stitch October. And so I wouldn't say I went crazy, but this was kind of a mini mania for me, but with all fall projects. So then on the first day of fall, I also started Autumn Lane's Coffee Please, Falling Leaves and Coffee Please. And so I actually did my own conversion for this. And so if you would like to know my conversion, please leave a comment below and ask me, and I will try to message it to you because I don't have that information right off handy. But it was charted with Be Stitch Me Silks or a DMC alternative. And so I started with some of the DMC, and then I realized I didn't care for it. So I have a combo of some Gentle Arts and some coloring cotton in here, along with some of the DMCs. So this is being stitched on a piece of Vintage Country Mocha. And here's where I'm at. I did 542 stitches on this for a total of 9%. So I think a reasonable goal on this, if not finishing, is to get it to 25% this year. And then keeping with the going into the Hauntober stuff, so that was started on September 21st. So then in October, I did some more starts. And so on October 2nd, I started Assembly Required from Ink Circles. So this was a project I'd been wanting to start for a while, and I actually won this as part of my Frogworts winnings at from the Black Needle Society. So I am stitching this on a piece of, they're called Haunted from Picture This Plus fabric. So I mean, you can't get a much better name than that. It's this beautiful like blue-gray. And here's where I'm at. And I'm using a white kind of cream. This is from Needle Necessity. So like the Threadworks bought up needle. So if you have any Needle Necessities floss, it is, I wouldn't say it's worth something, but you're not going to be able to find any more of it. So use it. So it's white with a little bit of cream variegation in there, which I think works great for bones. So this piece then, I've only worked on it the one day, so I have 316 stitches in, and I'm already at 18%. So this is another one that is on my focus on a finish wheel because it has under 2,000 stitches left to go. After I started Assembly Required, then a couple of weeks later, I pulled out a kit that I found. It was, again, it was kind of my, let me just pull this up here. It was kind of a unicorn kit for me, so when I saw it, I knew I had to start it. This is the Glory of Autumn, a Dimensions kit. And I kind of shied away from starting this because I didn't want to stitch off paper. But if you look, there are a couple of people who have charted these into a PDF. So I was able to purchase a PDF off Etsy, I believe. And I verified, like I went through meticulously to make sure that it matched. And so the only way I would do that is because I already own the pattern. So I now can use this in Pattern Keeper. But I started this and I put in 324 stitches. So I've only worked on it the one time. So here we go. I have the cabin roof started. Not much, but you do what you gotta do. So again, this will get some stitches on it when it is called for temperature stitching and this fall. So what I'm gonna do this year, in May, I'm gonna work on all my projects that I've started in previous Mania years. In October, I'm gonna start on all of my I'm gonna make sure all my fall projects get touched. December, all of my Christmas projects get touched. So at the very least, even if they don't get called for anything else, they'll at least get, you know, a handful of stitches in this year. At least that's the hope. My next start then, after the Glory of Autumn on October 4th, so October 17th, I decided to finally start Scary Sampler. So here's what it'll look like from Heartstring Sampler. And I got this and its sister companion, Scenic Sampler, through Frogworks. And I was like, I really like it. Normally it's not my style of stitching, but I love like kind of the hidden Easter eggs in there where they have like, you know, stuff from Stranger Things and Doctor Who and Star Trek and Men in Black and like all sorts of little references in here. So I went ahead and I bought a piece of fabric that literally is going to be big enough for both of them. So this is a piece of Atomic Ranch Fabrics 20 count London Fog. And so I started this I'm using all the called for fancy flosses. And in 2025, I put in 200 stitches. And then yesterday, because this got called for temperature stitching, I've already put in a few more this year, but that's my start. Not much, but it's there. So this is going to get at least 900 more stitches because this just got called for my temperature stitching rotation. And it'll get stitched on again in October. And once I have a very good start on that, I have Scenic Sampler already all kitted up, ready to go. So they're all in the same bag because they're all in the same piece of fabric. And then my last fall/Halloween start actually comes out of this book from Lindy Stitches. And I love all the things. They're all a bunch of smalls. But in the spirit of beach red, I'm like, I love the concept of goth chicken. But I said, I'm not an alphabet person. So I went ahead, when I charted this into Pattern Keeper, I charted this in without the alphabet. So it's actually really small. So I was able to put in 279 stitches in on this, and I'm already sitting at 13%. And it's not much to show because it's all mostly black, but this is on a piece of 14 count cream Aida, and this is as wide as it's going to be. So I've got the border started. I've got a couple of things in there just for placeholders. So not much of a start, but I still think it's absolutely adorable. And I can't wait to continue stitching on this because this is one I literally can toss in my bag because it's literally 99.9% black stitching. And then once I finish something from there, I may start, any one of these. Because you've got the candy corn, you've got the broomstick brigade, you got some really, really cute pieces. So that is Goth Chicken from Lindy Stitches. And so then my last set of stitches was all the ones I just started here in December. Some of them are part of Christmas stitching. Some of them were, I want to get them started before 2026 because 2026 is really my year of no new starts. So I pushed a couple of them early. But So the first one I did was my birthday start. And this is Slytherin Common Room from Green Terrace. And as I said, if you watch my last floss tube where I showed this off, this is very difficult to find a cover picture of. And I don't know how difficult it is to even find the pattern now. But at one point I'd seen all 4 houses done up. So as a Slytherin, I of course had to do the Slytherin Common Room. So on my birthday, I started this and I put in 244 stitches to get 1% of the way done. And that's where I'm at. Yeah, nothing too exciting, but you can see some of the columns starting to come out. So this will be one that will get touched again for temperature stitching and in December. So not much to show there, but this is stitched on a piece of 22 count heart hanger. And then just before I left, so I'm actually going to be showing you the Rare Heaven and Earth project here. Actually, yeah, no, one of them here, because a whole bunch of stitchers decided that they were going to start Cookie Party from Amy Stewart in December. And so since I've had the mini one in my collection for a while, I said, well, I'm going to jump on that bandwagon. So I am stitching this on 28 count. I'm using 2/1 tent stitch for the first time. So that's a new thing for me. So I have 517 tent stitches done on this. Yeah, so it's not much of a start, but I'm at 0.69%. And this is as big as the whole thing's going to be. So I know some people are doing the max color. I know some people are doing the full, like, I'm trying the mini just to see the difference. So you can already see, if you look up really closely, you can see one cookie already. So I cannot wait to work on that one again because it's a mini, so I should be able to get that finished that much sooner. So that was Mini Cookie Party. And then this next one here, was not really a full new start, but it was a new start for me. So this is Aurora Cabin, and this is what it's gonna look like. This is a Dimensions Gold Collections kit. And this was found in one of the freebie piles, I believe at Camp Black Needle a couple years ago. And I originally went there because I'm like, hey, look, a bag. And then I saw the project inside and everything, it's kitted up. And the person, so I'll put a picture here of what it looked like when I got it. So I personally have not done a whole lot. But in 2025, I put in 253 stitches. So now I am here. Most of my stitches have been trying to fill in the background and bringing over some stitches here. So this is another technically full coverage piece. So this will be part of my full coverage WIP Go and will be part of probably my full coverage stitching on my floss tube going forward. And the final piece that I'm going to show you in this section is my Peppermint Purple 2026 Sal. So this one, I've put in way more stitches since I started the year. But I originally was not going to do this, but I had some fighting words for the 2025 sale for me. I was going along and trying to get caught up, and then I realized I was off by like 2 or 3 stitches, and I'm like, what the heck? Turns out I had made a mistake way back, like the first week I stitched it, making a mistake in the border. So I was like, okay, I need some redemption. So I am going to be stitching the 2026 Peppermint Purple Stitch Along, and I'm using the same colorway that I was before. So I am using Black Ada, Silver Krynic, and Bradley's Balloons. And then on the inside, I'm actually going to use the DMC that they call for. So this is where I'm at. So I started this on December 26th, and before the end of the year, I had already put in 1,100. And I'm now past that. I'm close to 2,000. So I now have the first 6 months worth of boxes done. And so I'll be able to start here this week and then continue down. So, so the modification I'm making to this is The peppermint purple has kind of suggested colors to go in these blocks. So I'm going to go, and as long as they match up with Bradley's balloons, I'm going to have all the blocks be a solid color this year, as opposed to trying to do the Bradley's balloons fill in. But the Bradley's balloons will be part of my outline. So that was my last 2025 start. All right, so let me skip out. I need to change an SD card, and I need to pull out my Heaven and Earth design. So my the last part of my WIP parade here is going to be completely full coverage. So I'll be right back. All right, we're back for the last part of the WIP parade, the moment that some of you have been waiting around for a while for. So these are all of my full coverage Heaven and Earth projects that are currently in my rotation, with the exception of one, because I forgot to show off one in my previous part. So this is my Frogwarts BAP. So let me tell you the story behind this one. So I have been stitching all the Frogwarts pieces individually, but then a person who was on my team in year 3, I believe, she started all of them on one big piece of fabric and decided she was not going to continue. So she offered up what she had, and I picked it up. So I am actually working on all of the Frogwarts pieces also on one piece of fabric. So I started, so I can give you the start dates that I have on all of them, but it's probably easier just to show you all of them together. So this is where I'm at. So Rachel had started had this band here from year 1. She did that. She had half of year 2, and then she'd finished all of year 3, because that's the year that she did it. So in the time since I have had this, I have started year 1, and I've started year 4. I have started year 4 and a teeny tiny little bit of year 5, just for placement. So I actually have a section called Frogwarts on my temperature stitching. So my first priority is going to be to get year 6 done, and then I'm going to work through these just to keep them going forward. So I forgot to show that earlier, but it was hard to figure out when did I start it, things like that. But that is being stitched with the fancy floss that was called for. So I've got the individual ones are DMC, and the big one is fancy floss, because that's how Rachel started it. And this is in my Slytherin project bag. So that was the one I'd forgotten about. So now I'm gonna go through my Heaven and Earth designs in order of oldest to newest. So the first Heaven and Earth design I ever started lives in this project bag, and it is Christmas Puppies from Dominic Davison. And so all of these, unless I tell you differently, are on 25 count Easy Grid Lugana with using 2/1 full cross and the called for DMC colors. So I started this one October 6, 2019. And I am now up to 35% on it, because in 2025, I put in 10,894 stitches. So, as you can see, I was at a decent point at the end of 2025. Here is where I'm ending 2026. So, my goal for 2026 is to finish this row of pages and finally start back over here. But this is my oldest Heaven and Earth, so this is the one that I've put on my full coverage WIP Go piece several times, just so that way this gets touched on. Because what I don't want to have happen is that I have so many started and nothing, making progress. So I like starting them, but I also want to continue to see progress. And so since this is my oldest Heaven and Earth, I want to make sure I make progress. So even if I'm finishing up down here and getting all the way back over here finally, because this has been a while. So this was I said was my this was October 2019. All right. So then my next one was, I believe, yep, it was my New Year, New Start for 2020. And since it is something I'm still currently working on, it's in the Q-Snap. So this is Old World Map from Dominic Davison. And so in 2025, this got 7,332 stitches. So it is also sitting at 35%. And here's where I'm at. This has been my gridiron grind piece. So I actually was working on this last night as well. So in 2025, I've pretty much got the globe started. And so this is one that this is going to be my focus on a finish for next year, because this is my Haid with the second fewest stitches left. So I'm going to just work on this as it's called for in WIP Go and gridiron grind this year, and in the hopes of maybe hitting 50%, or at the very least, just making progress. And then next year, taking however many stitches I have left and dividing by 365 with the goal of trying to finish this one next year. Because that methodology actually worked very well for me last year with the Haid Sal, where as long as I could average 350 stitches a day, so some days I had more, some days I had less, but I was able to finish a full Heaven and Earth last year. And so after Old World Map, I was like, I'm fine. And then COVID hit, and I said, nope, I need a new start to distract me. So I started a Stitch in Time from Amy Stewart. So I started that one in April of 2020. And in 2025, I put in 7,854 stitches. So I am now up to 29%. So on this piece, I am completely done with the top row. So I'm done with the spring. And so in 2025, my progress was down here starting the summer row. So I have, my inclination is just to continue working this way. Although I now have the option of continuing downward. So if I wanted to work on this in the fall, I could. But this one is probably one of my favorites. And you'll see why in a second. When you love a project so much you want to stitch it twice, you know it's a good project. So, but this is the regular size, regular color version. And I'm really, really liking it. But as I was seeing pictures of people stitching other versions, I said, I wonder about the detail. So my mother-in-law almost challenged me. She says, well, why not stitch the big piece? So I decided to pick up the supersize max color and start that. So I'm also stitching a Stitch in Time using the supersize max color pattern. This is a piece, though, I am debating on converting to her stitching shelf, which is pretty much, it's the same design minus the Stitch in Time part in the middle. And so I've purchased it, and I'm working on just trying to figure out where I can kind of make the conversion with, make the transition, if you will, to where it's not noticeable, because there are some slight changes in the colors and stuff like that, where like I inputted my progress from the version you're about to see into a stitching shelf, and saw that like, hey, some of the threads that were parked as one color as the color in this one, but not the same color in that same spot. So I don't know. I know people are like, they're charted completely differently. You should start over, but I don't want to waste the progress I've made. So I will let you guys kind of be the judge of this. So this is where I'm at on the supersize max color version. So I started doing this by page. So I got about halfway through the first row of pages, and then decided to start bringing down the shelf, because each shelf is 2 pages. So I am at a point now, I'm still at a point where this would still match up with the stitching shelf as well as a Stitch in Time. But I really do like the colors and the coverage and the details. So, I mean, I have no problem stitching both of these, but this is my lifelong stitch. I mean, this is the size of the fabric. Okay. This is like, can I get this done in my lifetime? And so it's possible that switching over to a stitching shelf might help me make more progress on it rather than saying, oh man, I'm stitching on the exact same thing as I am on the other one. But it's still nice. This one though, I just, for whatever reason, couldn't get into a rhythm with this one this year. So I only put in 2,260 stitches in the whole year. And that has me at 7% complete. All right. And so then in 2022, I started 3 hades. So the first one is actually not a full coverage hade. This is endurance. And this is being stitched on an piece of 18 count, non-gridded, but still using the called for colors. And this is, so let me show you before I show it to you. I was able to put in 3,349 stitches, so I'm up to 32% on this. And so here is what it looks like at the beginning of 2026. I was able to get his shell done, and I'm working on his head now. So this is my project that the plan is to finish it this year. So I've already gotten some stitches done in his head since New Year's Day. But if I can stitch an average of 150 stitches a day on this until December 31st, this will be a finish this year. So I would like to see that happen. So that is this is my full, I'm going to say my full coverage because it's a no background type thing. So that's where he's at. And he's going to go in my home gym. I haven't decided on a name for him. I feel like because I'm going to be spending every day with him, I should come up with a name for him and the snail, but I haven't come up with a name idea. So if you have any name ideas, drop them in the comments below and I'll let you know if I choose it. So that's endurance. And then the next piece that I had started in 2022 got a lot of stitches this year for Gridiron Grind. So this lives in this New Orleans project bag from Judy's Custom Bags. And this is Nola. And the artwork is from Mandy Manzano. So let me dig out the project here. So this is the piece I was using for Gridiron Grind for the New Orleans Saints. But also just when it got called for WIP Go last in the year. So this year, I think at the beginning of 2025, I just finished one Royal Row. And so I was able to finish the second Royal Row in 2026 or 2025. So here is where I'm at. So forgive the park threads. It is what it is. But that is now the first full row of pages complete because it's going to be a vertical piece. And this is probably my favorite hade. So this one I still owe it some stitches for Gridiron Grind for the Saints. So that'll be that's probably what I'm going to work on this week, and then just keep working. I haven't decided if I'm going to just work a full row of pages across, or if I'm just going to do a couple rows like Royal Row style. Haven't decided yet. But I absolutely love the colors and I love how this is turning out. So keeping that one in the rotation for sure. And then in 2022, I also started Vintage Baker from Amy Stewart. I've discovered that Amy and her husband Lars Stewart are probably my two favorite artists that are on the Hade website. And this project spoke to me because, like I mentioned before, I spent more time with my grandmother than I spent with my own mom sometimes. And my grandmother baked. And so when you look at the cover photo for this, it may not have been the exact same brands, but this is what a counter would look like at my grandmother's house, especially making Christmas cookies. So I knew I had to stitch this. So in 2025, I put in 5,244 stitches. So I'm now at 9% done, and I'm doing this one Royal Rose method too. And so I have finished my second, so that's where I'm at. It's not a whole heck of a lot, but this was where I was focusing on in 2025. So if I can get another set if I can get another row, so the way I do my rows when I do them is I do 2 down. So if I can even go down 2 and then just continue over, that would be an amazing goal. Because the older heights, so the map, the Christmas puppies, and the two stitch in times, those are going to be the ones that are most repeated on my WIP Go board. All right, and then I have 2 more to show you. So then in 2024, when I was doing all those new starts, I kind of felt that I had to start ahead because we had just retired, or I quit teaching. So I decided to start a traveler's window from Lars Stewart, because this is what my husband and I want to do a lot, and we have been, is traveling. So this one, I started May 21st, 2024, and I put in 8,120 stitches in 2025. So I'm now sitting at 5% complete. And so what I did here was I went down a page and I'm going over. So this is the first page, and then I wanted to take it down to finish the green jacket. So now I have started the next page. So I'm going to kind of do this one. I think maybe Royal Rose method, but instead of doing it by row, I'm just going to do pages. So I'll go down 2 pages, keep going over. You kind of, like, each pattern has its own unique method depending on what's on the pattern. But this is, so this is probably my newest, this is my second newest Haid, which means it'll probably get the fewest amount of work. But that's okay. It is still a very much loved piece. And then the final Haid was actually a surprise start. So I signed up for the 2026 Heaven and Earth Design Stitch Along, not because any of the patterns really spoke to me, but because the prize for getting 1 page complete on your pattern was a custom design from Amy Stewart. And as I said before, Amy Stewart is my favorite Heaven and Earth designer. So I said, oh, I can pick a random project and just get 1 page done. I mean, that's doable. So I had kitted up one of them and was ready to start, and then they decided after I'd signed up for the Heaven and Earth sale and had committed to finishing 1 page, the people who were running the sale decided to send out the Amy Stewart piece as a thank you to everybody. So, like, hey, you didn't even have to finish 1 page. So when I saw Sanctuary of Stitching, I said, all right, I'm scrapping this 2026 sale and I'm working on this. So this actually is on a piece of 28 count, and I'm stitching this one max color. So it's regular size max color using tent stitch. So in 2025, I started this December 27th, and I was able to get in 1,857 stitches before the new year. So here's where I'm at. And I actually really didn't want to put this down, but I know that I needed to. I'm actually really enjoying working tent stitch. So this one I am working cross country, just because I can. So those are all the projects that I am taking into 2026. I do not plan on starting very many. I think, in fact, I have a list of maybe 5 projects total that I plan on starting. But my biggest goal is to whip down. So I'm going to do a separate video later this week, maybe explaining my plans. But I'm doing, I've got 2 WIP Go boards. I've got temperature stitching, and I'm doing fandom stitching. So my goal is to touch all of my WIPs and to get some serious progress and finishes on. So I'm not planning on doing much in the way of starts this year. I really want to get progress and finishing. So like right here, I showed you 71 projects. I'd like to get it back to like 50, maybe. So anyhow, if you've made it this far, thank you. Comment below and tell me which one of my projects was your favorite, because I just, I'm curious to know which one everybody likes the most. But if you stuck around this far and you like what you see, please make sure you give it a like, you comment, you subscribe, do all those YouTubey things. Find me on Instagram. I am over on Instagram at Walking in Stitches, and I'll put that below. And until we meet again, remember, never let anybody tell you what to do. You just go ahead and stitch your own stitch. Have a great day.